I have permission from Balaram Das to do a special pre-Gaur class. So today I will be speaking from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, hopefully to get us into the nice mood for tomorrow's Gaur festivities. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So the first thing is a excerpt from an explanation found in the Antya Leela. Prabhupada explains, the word Panjitika means further explanations of a subject. Writing such explanations is likened to the process of fluffing out cotton. So I'm using that as a means of how I compiled my class for today. So in the Madhya Leela, chapter 10, there is a description of the arrival of Svarupa Damodara joining Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. Svarupa Damodara also arrived the next day. He was a very intimate friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was an ocean of transcendental mellows. When Svarupa Damodara was residing at Navadvip under the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his name was Purushottam Acharya. After seeing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order, Purushottam Acharya became like a madman and immediately went to Varanasi to take sannyas. At the conclusion of his sannyas, his spiritual master, Chaitanya Nanda Bharati, ordered him, read the Vedanta Sutra and teach it to all others. Svarupa Damodara was a great renunciant, as well as a great learned scholar. With heart and soul, he took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He was very enthusiastic to worship Sri Krishna without disturbance, and therefore, almost in madness, he accepted the sannyas order. And upon accepting sannyas, Purushottam Acharya followed the regulative principles by giving up his tuft of hair and sacred thread, but he did not accept the saffron-colored dress. And also, he did not accept a sannyasi title, but remained as a Naishtika brahmachari. After taking permission from his sannyas guru, Svarupa Damodara went to Nilachala and accepted the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then, all day and night, in ecstatic love of Krishna, he enjoyed transcendental mellows in the loving service of the Lord. Svarupa Damodara was the limit of all learned scholarship, but he did not exchange words with anyone. He simply remained in a solitary place, and no one could understand where he was. Sri Svarupa Damodara was the personification of ecstatic love, fully cognizant of the transcendental mellows in relationship with Krishna. He directly represented Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his second expansion. If someone wrote a book or composed verses and songs and wanted to recite them before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Svarupa Damodara would first examine them and then correctly present them. Only then would Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agree to listen. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was never pleased to hear books or verses opposed to the conclusive statements of devotional service. The Lord did not like hearing rasa abhasa, the overlapping of transcendental mellows. It was the practice of Svarupa Damodara Gosvami to examine all literatures to find out whether their conclusions were correct. Only then would Svarupa Damodara allow them to be heard by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Svarupa Damodara used to read the poems of Vidyapati and Chandidas and Jayadev Goswami's Sri Gita Govinda. Svarupa Damodara used to make Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very happy by singing these songs. Svarupa Damodara was as expert as musician as the Gandharvas. And in scriptural discussion, Svarupa Damodara was just like Brihaspati, the priest of the heavenly gods. Therefore, it is to be concluded that there was no great personality quite like Svarupa Damodara. Sri Svarupa Damodara was very dear to Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu. And Svarupa Damodara was the life and soul of all the devotees, headed by Srivas Thakur. So when Svarupa Damodara came to Jagannath Puri, he fell flat before the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, offering Lord Chaitanya obeisances and reciting the following verse. So this is why I did this preliminary explanation of Svarupa Damodara, just so that we would approach this verse very, very seriously. So here's the verse. Helod hunita kedaya vishataya pronilad amodaya shyam yachchastra vivadaya rasadaya chitra priton madaya shasvad bhakti vinodaya samadaya madhurya maryadaya Sri Chaitanya daya nidhi tavadaya bhuyad amandodaya. So the word Daya Nidhi, O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhuyat Amanda Udaya. Let there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy. Hela Udhunita Kedaya, which easily drives away all kinds of material lamentation. Vishadaya, by making everything pure and blissful. Indeed, Pronmilat Amodaya, your mercy awakens transcendental bliss and covers all material pleasures. And by your auspicious mercy, Shamyat Shastra Vivadaya, quarrels and disagreements arising among different scriptures are vanquished. Rasadaya Chitta Arpita Unmadaya. Your auspicious mercy pours forth transcendental mellows and thus causes the heart to jubilate. Shasvat Bhakti Vinodaya Sa Madaya. Your mercy, which is full of joy, always stimulates devotional service. Madhurya Maryadaya glorifies conjugal love of God. Daya Bhuyat Amanda Udaya. May transcendental bliss be awakened within my heart by your causeless mercy. So here is Prabhupada's purport to this beautiful verse, which we just heard, composed by Svarupa Damodara, glorifying Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada writes, this important verse from Sri Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka specifically describes Lord Chaitanya's causeless mercy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most magnanimous personality of Godhead, distributes his causeless mercy in 3 ways to the conditioned soul. So I tried to do some research on that, and this is what I came up with. So I'm adding to Prabhupada's purport here. So it says that he distributed causeless mercy in 3 ways. So what I found was Sakshat Darshana, by direct meaning. Number 2, Avesha, empowering a perfect devotee with specific spiritual potencies. And number 3, Avirbhav, appearing himself. And then I found that this Avirbhav was in 4 places. In the house of Srimati Shachi Mata. Number 2, wherever Nityananda Prabhu danced in ecstasy. Number 3, the house of Srivas when Kirtan was performed. And number 4, the house of Raghava Pandit. Now the purport continues. Every living entity is morose in the material world because he is always in want. One undergoes a great struggle for existence and tries to minimize his miserable condition by squeezing the utmost pleasure out of this world. But the living entity is never successful in this endeavor. While in a miserable condition, a person sometimes seeks the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this is very difficult for materialistic people to obtain. However, when one becomes Krishna conscious by the grace of the Lord, the fragrance of the lotus feet of the Lord expands. And in this way, a materialist may gain freedom from one's miseries. Actually, one's mind is cleansed by transcendental connection with the lotus feet of the Lord. At such a time, one is enlightened by the loving service of the Lord. There are many different kinds of scriptures, and by reading them, one often becomes puzzled. But when one receives the mercy of the Lord, one's confusion is mitigated. Not only are scriptural disparities resolved, but a kind of transcendental bliss is awakened. And in this way, one is fully satisfied. The transcendental loving service of the Lord constantly engages the conditioned soul in serving the Lord's lotus feet. Through such fortunate engagement, one's transcendental love for Krishna is increased. One's position is thus completely purified, and one is filled with transcendental bliss, accompanied by the spirit soul's jubilation. Thus, the transcendental causeless mercy of Lord Krishna is manifest in the heart of the devotee. At such a time, material needs no longer exist. The lamentation that invariably accompanies material desires also vanishes. By the grace of the Lord, one is elevated to the transcendental position, and then the transcendental mellows of the spiritual master are manifest in one. One's devotional service then becomes firm, and one engages in the Lord's transcendental loving service with great determination. All these combine to fully awaken the devotee's heart with love of Krishna. In the beginning, a conditioned soul is bereft of Krishna consciousness and is always morose in his material activities. Later, by associating with a pure devotee, one becomes inquisitive to know the absolute truth. In this way, one begins to engage in the transcendental service of the Lord. Next, by the Lord's grace, all misconceptions are vanquished, and the heart is cleansed of all material dirt. It is only then that the pleasure of transcendental bliss is awakened. By the Lord's mercy, one is completely convinced of the value of devotional service. When one can see the pastimes of the Lord everywhere, he is firmly situated in transcendental bliss. Such a devotee is relieved of all kinds of material desires and preaches the glories of the Lord all over the world. These Krishna conscious activities separate one from material activities and the desire for liberation, because at every step, the devotee feels himself connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although such a devotee may sometimes be involved in household life, he is untouched by material existence due to one's constant engagement in devotional service. Thus, everyone is advised to take shelter of devotional service to become happy and liberated. So now there are some nice verses which will again hopefully put us in a good frame of mind so that we are fully ready for tomorrow's Gaura Purnima. Of course, the famous verse from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnang Tvisha Krishnang Sango Pangashtra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayayar Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Then I found this nice verse by Rupa Gosvami in his Stavamala. Kalau yang vidvangsas putam abhiyajante duty barad a Krishnangang Krishnang vaka vidibir utkirtanam mayai upasyang chang prahuryam akila chaturtashrama jushang sadevas chaitanyakritir atitarang na kripayatu. By performing the sacrifice of congregational chanting of the holy name, learned scholars in the age of Kali worship Lord Krishna, who is now non-blackish because of the great upsurge of the feelings of Srimati Radharani. He is the only worshipful deity for the Paramahamsas who have attained the highest stage of the fourth order, sannyas. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, show us his great causeless mercy. And then also in the Stavamala of Rupa Goswami, in his Chaitanyashtakam, he composes this verse. Smita loka shokam harati jagatang yasya parito girang tu prarambha kushala patiling palavayati padalamba kang va pranayati nahi prema nivaham se devas chaitanya kritta atitarang na kripayatu. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya, bestow his causeless mercy upon us. His smiling glance at once drives away all the bereavements of the world, and his very words enliven the auspicious creepers of devotion by expanding their leaves. Taking shelter of his lotus feet invokes transcendental love of Godhead at once. And then also from the Chaitanyashtaka from the Stabamala of Rupa Goswami. Sadopasya Sriman Ritta Manuja Kayai Pranayatang Vahadbir Gir Vanar Giri Shri Parameshti Prabrahitivi Swabhaktevya Shuddhang Nija Bhajanam Mudram Upadishan Sat Chaitanya King Me Punar Api Drishor Yasyati Padam. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always the most worshipable deity of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who came in the garb of ordinary men, bearing love for him. He instructs his own pure devotional service to his own devotees. Will he again be the object of my vision? Now, in the Adi Lila, chapter 3, there is a nice series of verses helping us to understand Lord Chaitanya. Krishnadas Kaviraj says, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the initiator of sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. One who worships him through sankirtan is fortunate indeed. Such a person is truly intelligent, whereas others who have but a poor fund of knowledge must endure the cycle of repeated birth and death. Of all sacrificial performances, the chanting of the Lord's holy name is the most sublime. One who says that 10 million Ashvamedha sacrifices are equal to the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna is undoubtedly an atheist. He is sure to be punished by Yamaraj. In the auspicious introduction to the Bhagavat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami has given the following verse as an explanation. Antak Krishnang Bahir Gauram Darshitangadi Vaibhavam Kalau Sankirtanadya Isma Krishna Chaitanyam Ashrita. I take shelter of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is outwardly of a fair complexion, but is inwardly Krishna himself. In this age of Kali, he displays his expansions, his angas and upangas, by performing congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And there's a very nice purport to this verse. Prabhupada writes, Srila Jiva Goswami has placed the above verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which we chanted, Krishna Varnam Tvasha Krishnam, as the auspicious introduction to his Bhagavat Sandarbha or Shat Sandarbha. He has composed this text, which is in effect an explanation of the Bhagavatam verse, as the second verse of the same work. The verse from Srimad Bhagavatam was enunciated by Karabhajana, one of the great sages, and it is elaborately explained by the Sarva Sangvadani, Jiva Goswami's commentary on his own Shat Sandarbha. The word Antak Krishna refers to one who is always thinking of Krishna. This attitude is a predominant feature of Srimati Radharani. Even though many devotees always think of Krishna, none can surpass the gopis, among whom Radharani is the leader in thinking of Krishna. Radharani's Krishna consciousness surpasses that of all other devotees. Lord Chaitanya accepted the position of Srimati Radharani to understand Krishna. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya was always thinking of Krishna in the same way as Radharani. By thinking of Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya always overlapped Krishna. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who was outwardly very fair, with a complexion like molten gold, simultaneously manifest his eternal associates, opulences, expansions, and incarnations. Lord Chaitanya preached the process of chanting Hare Krishna, and those who are under his lotus feet are glorious. So before I continue, if Dravida Das is in the audience, when I finish my class, I would beg to ask him the meaning of this phrase. By thinking of Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya always overlapped Krishna. So when I finish, if Dravida is there, I hope that he can explain it because I could not understand that. By thinking of Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya always overlapped Krishna. Let me finish. Srila Jiva Goswami explains. So this is the purport to the Bhagavatam verse. I didn't know if I'd have enough time, so I put it at the end. So this is the Chaitanya Charitamrita purport to the famous Bhagavatam class verse. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna Varna means Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna Varna and Krishna Chaitanya are equivalent. The name Krishna appears with both Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Krishna. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Lord Chaitanya always engages in describing Krishna and thus enjoys transcendental bliss by chanting and remembering Krishna's name and form. Lord Krishna himself appears as Lord Chaitanya to preach the highest gospel. Lord Chaitanya always chants the holy name of Krishna and describes it also. And because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, whoever meets Lord Chaitanya will automatically chant the holy name of Krishna and later describe it to others. Lord Chaitanya injects one with transcendental Krishna consciousness, which merges the chanter in transcendental bliss. In all respects, therefore, Lord Chaitanya appears before everyone as Krishna, either by personality or by sound. Simply by seeing Lord Chaitanya, one at once remembers Lord Krishna. One may therefore accept Lord Chaitanya as Vishnu Tattva. In other words, Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna himself. Sango Bhangashtra Parshadam further indicates that Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna. Lord Chaitanya's body is always decorated with ornaments of sandalwood and with sandalwood paste. And by Lord Chaitanya's super excellent beauty, Lord Chaitanya subdues all the people of the age. In other words, in other descents, the Lord sometimes used weapons to defeat the demoniac. But in this age, the Lord subdues them with his all-attractive figure as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that Lord Chaitanya's beauty is his astra, or weapon, to subdue the demons. Because Lord Chaitanya is all attractive, it is to be understood that all the demigods lived with Lord Chaitanya as his companions. Lord Chaitanya's acts were uncommon and Lord Chaitanya's associates wonderful. When Lord Chaitanya propagated the sankirtan movement, Lord Chaitanya attracted many great scholars and acharyas, especially in Bengal and Orissa. Lord Chaitanya is always accompanied by his best associates like Lord Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, and Srivas. Srila Jiva Goswami cites a verse from the Vedic literature which says that there is no necessity of performing sacrificial demonstrations or ceremonial functions. He comments that instead of engaging in such external pompous exhibitions, all people, regardless of caste, color, or creed, can assemble together and chant Hare Krishna to worship Lord Chaitanya. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam indicates that prominence should be given to the name of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya taught Krishna consciousness and chanted the name of Krishna. Therefore, to worship Lord Chaitanya, everyone should together chant the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To propagate worship in churches, temples, or mosques is not possible because people have lost interest in that. But anywhere and everywhere, people can chant Hare Krishna. Thus, worshiping Lord Chaitanya, they can perform the highest activity and fulfill the highest religious purpose of satisfying the Supreme Lord. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhatta Acharya, a famous disciple of Lord Chaitanya, said, "The principle of transcendental devotional service having been lost, Sri Krishna Chaitanya has appeared in order to deliver again the process of devotion." Lord Chaitanya is so kind that Lord Chaitanya is distributing love of Krishna. Everyone should be attracted more and more to Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, as humming bees are attracted to a lotus flower. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I see Dravida is there. Maybe he can help with the explanation of that line that I could not understand.
Well, it's a big maybe. I've been thinking about that, and the first thing that came to mind, because we have this understanding that Lord Chaitanya really is Krishna. So, but that's not what Srila Prabhupada seems to be saying here. By thinking of Lord Krishna, he always overlapped Krishna. So I was reminded of the phenomenon where Uddhava was such an intimate devotee of Lord Krishna that he looked like Krishna, and that Lord Chaitanya, in the role of ordinary person, he always he also manifested the qualities of Krishna, and sometimes he would, of course, reveal himself to be Krishna, or even a combination of Radha and Krishna. But the idea seems to be that Srila Prabhupada is speaking of him as the most exalted devotee in this particular sentence. The thinking of Lord Krishna, he always overlapped Krishna, and that he was able to manifest the qualities of Krishna. I was thinking of Srila Prabhupada. He was always thinking of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada was able to attract devotees, so many people, and to influence others. And because in the modern day, you would say because he's channeling, because he's completely a transparent via medium of Krishna, and therefore Krishna's attractive nature and his words and the holy name and everything, he was able to influence others to become attracted to Krishna and surrendered into Krishna. So in this way, there's a certain overlap of the energy and the manifestation of Krishna in those who are completely Krishna conscious, because they're able to completely be in tune with Krishna and reflect his desires and reflect his attraction. And that's about as high as I could go with that.
It's better than anything I could come up with.
You know, as they go through there are various things that come up that are puzzling sometimes in Prabhupada's books. Like, and I see them every day. And yesterday we're going through the TLC and going and looking for things that may be puzzling. And one of the things, you may remember this, I didn't remember it till I saw it yesterday, that Prabhupada talks about the Purushottama Vedanta Sutra. Have you remember that one? The Purushottama. No,
I don't. That line doesn't.
No, excuse me. The Purusha Vedanta Sutra. And,
okay, that doesn't ring a bell.
It's in there. It's in there in all three editions of the TLC. It was there in the original, in the Hayagriva's revision in '74, and it's still there. And the question comes up, well, what does this mean? And I couldn't. It's the only place in all of Prabhupada's books and letters and everything that phrase appears. So I'm writing to my Sanskrit editor, who's Gopi Pranadhana's student, to ask him, what is this? Is this a phrase that we should know about? Is it something that, so we want to try to figure that one out. But there are certain places like that where you kind of scratch your head and you just don't know exactly what Prabhupada means. And here is one of them for sure. But that's the best I could do. Haribol.
Is there anything, apart from this question, is there anything you want to add to fluff out the cotton more of today's class?
Well, one thing is that you talked about you quoted some of these verses, which are quoted in CC from the Rupa Goswami Stavamala, and you said this is from the Chaitanyashtaka. There are actually 3 Chaitanyastakas that he begins the Stavamala with, and those are all excerpted from I think two of them. So one of them I put into a poem. If I could share a couple of verses from that would add some.
Good.
And I have to say that I have a slideshow with this, which of course I'm not going to present now, but tomorrow they wanted me to tomorrow evening I'll be speaking here and I'll present the whole slideshow, but I'll give you just a couple of those verses from there and that'll add to it. If you give me a second here just to locate the poetry file. Okay. Some of the devotees here may have heard this before. But
I think we've heard the Maha Mantra before, so.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, let me just find it. Give me another 10 seconds. All right. Must have made a mistake.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Okay, I'm sorry. You go ahead. There we go.
Well, there's, while you're looking that up, Vijay Krishna Das has a question. So we'll get back to you, Dravida, when you're...
Okay.
You found it?
No, not yet.
Okay, Vijay Krishna, what is your question?
Yes, Nirantara Prabhu, my humble obeisances. My question is, materialistic people think that without nuclear weapons, the problems of the material world cannot be solved. But the devotees do believe that by chanting and dancing and feasting, all problems can be solved. So my question is, who is right and who is wrong?
Of course, we're right. Of course, they're wrong. Because we are not on the mental platform. We are on the transcendental platform. We get our information from the topmost authority. So the conditioned soul, the materialist, everything is based on their sense perception. But one of the first things you learn by reading Prabhupada's books is that sense perception is faulty. The conditioned soul has 4 inherent defects. So the conditioned soul's senses are defective, they're imperfect, they're insufficient. So we follow the authorities who are perfect. We follow Vyasadeva, he is perfect. We follow Krishna, he is perfect. We follow Lord Chaitanya, he's perfect. So we are instructed simply to perform sankirtan. And Prabhupada has expanded the definition of sankirtan better than anybody. We not only chant the holy name in public, in our temples, but we also have the Brihat Madanga, the wider, louder Mridanga. We have Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada has established that books are the basis. And that reminds me, yesterday I tried to do some research where this books are the basis comes from, and preaching is the essence, and utility is the principle, and purity is the fourth. And in one reference I found, it said that actually these 4 things came from Bhakti Siddhanta. So everybody learns these when they join ISKCON. So everything is based on Prabhupada's books. I became a devotee because of being introduced to Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada said, these are my weapons. These are the specific weapons to destroy the materialistic consciousness, the atheism, the gross materialism. So we just have to worry about executing the orders of the authorities, our authorities, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, and our direct authority, Srila Prabhupada. And we leave the rest up to Krishna. And whatever happens after we execute our duties, like Gaur Nitai, we just raise our hands and depend on Krishna. Is that okay, Vijay Krishna Das?
Yes, Nirantara Prabhu, if I may, I liked it when you said that Srila Prabhupada said that his weapons were his books, and what I often hear is that Srila Prabhupada also said that go out and drop the bombs in order for us to win the war against Maya.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yes. Outstanding answer to my question as usual. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Trivedi Das, are you ready?
I'm ready. So this is my favorite verse in this 3rd Chaitanyastika. And then I'll chant a couple of more. And Bhavandi bhuvihe nada kadata dushkalot pattayas samuddhata sitanapi pratata charu karunyataha iti pramadadanta rakshadanamashtastvam shati sutamahi and kuru mukunda monde kripam. Even low-born sinful souls entrapped in Kali's age, suffering uncounted pains that no one can assuage, are instantly delivered when you kindly seek them out and flood them with your splendid mercy, making bhakti sprout. And so with heart rejoicing at your mercy's endless store, I take full shelter of your lotus feet and then implore, O Lord Chaitanya, Sri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool.
Yai.
And then I'll just give a couple of more. I'll just do the English. Trickling from your lotus mouth, the honey nectar stream of your pure words enlightens all and showers bliss supreme upon the humble bumblebees who are your devotees. What use to them are dry philosophies, austerities? You are an ocean full of gems, the holy names which bless all people on this planet with supreme auspiciousness. O Lord Chaitanya, Sri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, Please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. The beauty of your face defeats the full moon's soothing glow. From full-blown lotus petal eyes, your loving glances flow. By clusters of your gentle smiles, your lovely lips are graced. Your chest is broad, your arms are like two glorious upraised snakes. Your handsome form defeats 100 million Kamadeves, and best of all, your mercy floods this world in endless waves. O Lord Chaitanya Shri Mukunda Shakti's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. O Lord, whose splendor calls to mind the golden daffodil, I am the lowest sinner in this world of sinners. Still, you overlook the faults of one whose faults are like an ocean, and bless him with the strength to practice unalloyed devotion. With this in mind, O Lord, who are most kind to fallen souls, I ask you with a humble heart, devoid of mundane goals, O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shakti's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool.
Jai Lord Chaitanya ki jai.
And I want to offer an open invitation to Nirantara Das now, because I don't think many of us have heard you play music, but you're a very accomplished musician. You can take any of these poems that I've written and turn them into one of your wonderful songs.
Oh boy, that would be a challenge. Wow.
I'll send you my poetry file if you don't have
Okay. Okay, but that's like, wow. All right. I don't know if you would appreciate, but I can make a stab at it.
Yeah, sure. That's all. Just give it a try.
And does Vijay have any comments he would like to add to the churning of the ocean of nectar?
He's begging that that he doesn't have anything at this point. But
I
we're going to
find
hear
that hard to believe. How could a preacher not have anything to say?
Thank you very much, Nirantara Prabhu. Very inspiring.
Is there any questions from the devotees in the temple room? Any other questions? Or any questions, tapas, from the internet?
I don't see any questions in the internet, Prabhu.
No? No questions?
Yes, Prabhu, no questions from internet.
All right. Then, Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyaya Pacha, Patitanang Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you very much, ISKCON San Diego. May Lord Chaitanya bless you all, and may you become ecstatic in love of Godhead. Hare Krishna.